Second.
Moved and seconded. Any opposition to the motion? Hearing none. The meeting minutes of May 16, 2023 are approved. First thing I would like to do is to introduce and welcome Mr. Steve Shrake, who is our new Building and Zoning Department Commissioner. Welcome.
Thank you.
This is our first meeting with Mr. Shrake, and you'll see that we're pretty easy going and to get along with. The first matter before us and the only matter before us is ST 1561-23, a split transfer for a variance on minimum lot size in an R2 medium density residential zone district on the property described as parcel number 44-15337. The location is 325 Jude Road. The applicant owner is the Moses Schlachter Group. Mr. Shrake.
We did an analysis of this request, and while during that project review committee meeting, we had extensive discussion regarding this request and had concerns of granting an additional variance to what was a previously granted variance from the original code of 70 feet to 50 foot, and then this is now going to be a variance on that variance. Our biggest concern would be if the remaining lot would be too narrow for a structure that would be in keeping with the rest of the development. However, our recommendation is that the Building and Zoning Department has no objection to the request as submitted, provided an utility easement is created at the former property line, because property 10 has a 10-foot drainage easement along the north edge of the property, and the developer has shown that a smaller house model could fit on the remaining lot number 11.
Thank you. If there's anyone here in support of this from the owners, now is your opportunity.
Mr. Chairman, before you start with that, I'd like
Mayor?
to respond and further on things that Mr. Shrake had said. And in fairness to him, he wasn't here when we first discussed the first variance. And we were working with the Schlachter Group knowing that it was somewhat on uncharted territory when we were coming into this type of development. And our approach was we would work with the developer and try to work along the way to make whatever they were trying to do their work. And so even though it could impact the subdivision, it's impacting themselves, not us at the City of Oregon, except in the regards to what he talked about, the easement in that area, which we thought we have properly addressed. So whether or not we thought, I myself personally thought small lots, small homes, it's not what I see as where I want to live, but I was early able to recognize that other people did like that. And so we have to be in that mode to want to entertain new type of developments, because we were losing people's desire to live here because we didn't have certain type of developments that suited their needs. So from the onset, we did say we would try to work with the developer to make this work for them. And so, like I said, whatever impact we may believe something we may not like, they found it to work for them. And that's why I think the Architectural Review Committee had no objections to it.
Thank you, Mayor.
My name is Doug Howard. I think we've met.
Yes.
We have not met yet, but so what we want to do here is these folks want to build a home or villa, and what we're trying to do is create a straight driveway. In doing so, we need a sliver of that property to create a straight driveway. Unfortunately, today, as you know, development costs aren't getting any less, so lots are going to continue to get smaller. Any new subdivision is most likely going to continue to have smaller and smaller lots as we go on. But this is something that we came up with. We've built it before. It's not set in stone as to when. It was just an example of what we could do. I do feel it's very saleable. I wouldn't be afraid to build a spec and sell it. And I just don't see any issues with that being a negative to the neighborhood. And originally my thought was to potentially build this plan. This is my thought originally. And then the lots got smaller this way, a little more in width. So basically we just want to sliver. I don't know if can you show us that the lot split?
And if I could interject here, Doug, where you're speaking, myself and Paul Roman, I come into the discussion here saying, well, we thought it was a little unusual. It would impact that real small lot that was left over and whatnot. And we did come to the reality saying, it is your development and you're impacting your development. You still have a lot of lots to sell.
Oh, yeah.
And so we thought that if it was really a negative impact, you'd be the first one to say no.
Sure.
Because
And the other thing too, if you think about what Mark Rigg did on Wynn Road, when he built those 7, 8, 10, 11, something like that.
I'm very aware of them because I live in there and I
Okay.
pass them out every day.
You know, so something like that, I'm sure would fit in there as well. And he did very well with those. So I do believe that there's a product that would go in there and that's not going to be an issue. And trust me, I'm the one that has to sell them. I'm financing them. It's my money. So I'm as invested as anybody in these lots working for.
That's
for
the
future.
thing we recognized and helped guide us through our decision that, hey, it wasn't our deal, it's your deal.
Yeah.
I think, would you say that's fair, Paul?
Well, and the fact that this subdivision is not fully developed, it's just getting there. So it's more of a risk to do this in the beginning than to do it at the very end. You know, at the very end, you could be the last thing left. You know, maybe someone buys this as a spare lot and that changes things, but this is in the very beginning. So they're going to.
Yeah, people will know what they're moving into because they can see it happening before their eyes.
And in my eyes, activity breeds activity. So we get this approved, we start this house and, you know, you got to keep it going to sell.
The hope would be that you know, that lot 11 would get developed sooner than later, and that.
Well, and that's the plan. Unfortunately, these folks kind of screwed up the plan a little bit because they wanted those special lots. But the plan is to just swipe down the road. You know, it's not to go here, here, here. You know, that's not cost effective from a builder standpoint. So we do want to go right down the line typically. So
Yeah.
the plan will be to continue down the road that way. No offense.
Not taken.
So we're not worried about any variance or issue with lot 10. It's only lot 11 that we're creating we're voting on the variance
Yeah.
for tonight. Lot 11 actually gets a little bigger,
Correct.
or
Lot 10.
lot 10
10.
actually gets a little bit bigger
Correct.
just to straighten out the line to the curb. And we're talking about what looks like 5 feet in the front and 10 feet in the back. So it's a small pie as we go from front to back. So it looks like at the curb, it's only 5.34 feet. And back at the back of the property, it's 10.17 feet. So you're talking, like you talked about a sliver, it's a small piece of pie at that point in time. Mr. Orovitz, I know you always have a question, so you have a
You
question?
can count on
I know it.
it. Looking at lot 10, this is the proposed structure for there, correct? There's no structure on lot 10 right now, today, correct?
Correct.
There's one on lot 9, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So on lot 10, when I'm looking at this proposed structure, it shows a 6 foot from corner of the structure to the property line. Is that correct? Am I looking at that correctly?
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't.
It shows a 6 foot, where the building line would begin.
Okay, so what is the setback that we actually
5
have
foot. would
5
be-
foot.
5 foot would be the
required?
required.
Okay, that's what I was trying to, I wasn't sure if it was 5 or 10. That's what I was trying to verify.
5.
Okay,
Five for either structure, so it would ultimately give you a maximum of 10. But
between the
5
two.
5 from the property line.
Okay. And then this proposed, this architectural design here is for lot 11.
Yeah, potential. Not a
Potentially.
set in stone.
Right, right. And so then what would be from the front of this, what would be to the lot line then, the distance?
That, I think we have that.
I didn't see that anywhere in
Well,
our,
the one has 32 feet,
Good one on lot 11.
32 feet
There
to
you
there.
this is lot 11 though.
Well, that's off 10.
So it's 835.
It appears as though they got 8 foot, 8.35 feet from one side and 9.95 feet from the other property line. So they're well within
Okay,
the setbacks.
all right. And that was my main question is how close are to the property line in the front of the building? The back obviously is not a problem. So they're within compliance in the front then also.
Yes, because it is a slight pie shape as well.
Right, correct. And I just didn't see that anywhere on the drawings that I had received.
It would be on the one that
This one here.
shows the footprint.
Okay. Okay, I still have another question though. For lot 10, I see a 10-foot drainage easement. Is that correct, Mr. Howard? Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Okay, is that for a swale or is that for a catch basin and
For a storm sewer.
for a storm sewer? So you're gonna have underground conduit going either to the street or across
It's
the
already in
street?
place.
Pardon?
It's already in place.
It's already in place. The reason I'm bringing, and then, so the proposed structure on lot 10, it is showing, I guess it doesn't give a dimension, but it's showing the front left corner of the house, very close to that 10-foot easement. What is your idea on how close it would be?
It's
Touching it.
very close.
Right on it. Okay. The reason I'm bringing this up, and I know the city can't do anything about it, but I live in Cardinal Bay Estates, and at 1001 Cardinal Bay, we have the exact scenario, but they're actually set back about 4 feet from the 10-foot easement. And their half basement is in the left-hand side of the home, and their sump pump never turns off because the drainage from the aggregate from the storm drain tile and the aggregate from their home at one point in time probably had a clay base between it. But after 20 years, it has eroded away. And they've looked into different scenarios, the homeowner did, and all of them are very expensive. So were you the half basement on the house going on lot 10? Was that on the drainage easement side or was it on the other side?
The basement.
Yeah. You think it's gonna flood either way?
It's on the drainage
It's on the
easement side.
east side.
Okay. And like I said, I know the city can't do anything about it, but I'm just saying as a design prospect, you know, I don't think they had the original owners, I don't think had a problem, but the second owners now have it. And it has, I don't know if there's any, I know we have a clay dam
Well,
go ahead, Mr. Roman.
Well, if I could, it's just that, you know, with the newer subdivisions, we've done things where you automatically put in clay dams so that water can't travel on the outside of a pipe. So the fear is when you have the foundation of your home has a tile around it with stone, you don't want that same stone to kiss the stone of a gravity pipe, because what happens is water travels on the outside, and if the two stone meet, then that could haunt you for a sump pump.
Basically,
So-
there's some pump is draining water from the drainage.
Right,
tile.
and one thing we do is like, even with, when we do a pipe that goes from the front to the back of the home. Even on a storm pipe, we'll use sanitary pipe joints. That it's tighter and it makes it a tighter fit. And then we put in the clay dams as well, and that helps stop water traveling on the outside of the pipe. And yeah, I don't like to see the basement side up against, right up against the same stone, but I know these guys are moving it further away. I almost see that as more of the reason for this variance, is that it's actually being turned further from the drainage easement, which I think is a better thing.
Yeah, it's
Versus
only
right up
touching-
on it.
It's only touching
Or
on the front,
porch.
and then it
Correct.
goes like. this.
So as much as they could have made this building work and be right up on it, it wouldn't be a good thing. So I personally, I like, as much as we don't want a variance to a variance. However, I see this kind of as a hardship. They have this bigger home, and they have this drainage easement with a sewer pipe, and they're wishing to turn it. I guess if you can get a variance where you get another piece from the neighboring property and that's still buildable, in my mind, it's, well, look, I get that. I probably would steer my own home to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But, again, the hope is, you put in the clay dams, you do the right things to protect your basement, you have the right size. A lot of things can happen. Field tile fragments from whatever was a farm field before can still exist. There's a lot of things that it's surprisingly to see there's a lot of people with sewers on the side of their home with no problem.
Yeah.
So it's
This
a
one
mess.
just, I think what happened was the clay that was between the aggregate from the drainage and the aggregate going around their
It's-
home, that eventually broke down in the last 22
I would say
years.
it's best practice to keep the stone of your foundation away from the stone of a gravity sewer. But
Completely.
in this case, they're doing that by turning the building further from the drainage.
Right, right. So the
That's why-
further away, the
So
better.
to me, there's a hardship here, and that's why I personally think
Okay.
it's a better idea.
And as a builder, I complain about too much overdig all the time because I just got to pay for more stone. So I'm trying to keep that overdig as small as possible. So we have to use as little bit of stone as possible. So.
Okay. It was just something that from experience that I see my neighbors going through every time it rains, they're like in panic mode, so they'll even have like 3 or 4 pumps running if it's a heavy downpour. So.
Yeah, I asked what were the options they had to fix it.
Your builder can discuss that with you.
Okay.
I can't, it's not my home, so, there were some, it's basically going through their aggregate that is around their home into their sump pump area, into their crock. And so their sump pump, their basement flooded because the sump pump couldn't keep up
Right.
with all the water coming in, which was coming off of the aggregate from the drainage. So once the two kind of merged together, then now they're draining X amount of 20 feet of aggregate on the side of their yard, plus all around their home. So your builder can give you some
Any-
options.
And just not to, any pipe that leaves your house, you should put a clay dam around it because anything can travel on the outside of it and haunt you. Okay, just in general. And as much as we all think it's one thing, I've walked around a lot of these homes and you find their downspout discharges right at the foundation, or their sump pump. As much as they thought it's brand new, the pipe out in the yard got crushed when they were backfilling, and it's just cycling on itself. And sometimes there's a water line break, and that's leaking in. A lot of times we'll do dye tests of the sump water. If it's a high pH, it's probably city water getting in. If it's a lower pH, it's probably groundwater. So we do all these tests and checks and so on, and sometimes you don't find the answer. Okay, so as much as you think you know, you don't know. But to me, it's just wise to stay away from the gravity sewer on that. You just don't want the stone bedding to be in the same stone bedding as that pipe. But you can always pack clay around any pipe that leaves your home. That's wise to do, no matter what.
And I'm on lot 9. We've been there probably 4 or 5 months. Honestly, my sump pump doesn't run.
Yeah.
And I know it's new, just, right now I have no issues. I mean,
You have a full base.
and I have a full.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
On the same.
Unless we get rain. my sump pump-
Oh, true,
It
absolutely.
doesn't turn.
Yeah, it's just something I noticed in our neighborhood that I thought I'd bring up while the builder was here. I know, some builders try to put the lowest rated sump pump in for economics. And it keeps up, but like in my home, I have a full basement too, 40 by 26, I think of the basement part is. It didn't, actually it was the water pressure came up through the saw cracks in the floor because there was so much hydro pressure underneath. The sump pump was, I think, a half horse or something. It was a 1 horse now in there now, no problems. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just
Mayor?
to interject, and I know Mr. Roman experiences this, we've had problems like that through subdivisions throughout the city. And a lot of times he has gone and found some things to help correct. And usually it was within the installation of the infrastructure of the storm sewer. That's something didn't happen according to Hoyle or something. And from what he's learned from that, take steps to avoid that from happening in the future with the installation of the initial infrastructure of the storm sewer system. Because I know in Eagles Landing, we experienced a lot of that. I live in Eagles Landing. My sump pump almost never runs. I had a next door neighbor who constantly run, never shut off. In a hard downfall, a rain downfall, mine barely runs. Just the nature of how everything was installed at my house worked very well. But things that when Mr. Roman would come out and try to help the situation and improve what was going on, learn things, and has incorporated those into the later subdivisions to avoid problems. I think that's pretty fair. And you much just said that earlier on, things that we look at that maybe we didn't look at as closely years ago. But if you do everything right, we know water and the clay that's in the city of Oregon is very hard, and it can crack, and the water flows to the least resistance.
Correct.
And you can do everything right and still end up with a water problem. And you have to deal with it. And that's just life.
Oh, true. But you can take measures to try to prevent it as much as you can in the building process.
And that's correct.
And I think what we're saying is he's done
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, with the newer subdivisions, we've done a lot to try to stop water from traveling outside the pipe, put in these clay dams. We put in field tiles in the back swales because guess what? People put gardens in, they put landscaping in, and they block the flow. But if you have the tile there, then it keeps the drainage going. So we've improved with the newer subdivisions to prevent a lot of things. There still are cases, where there's an old tile or something's haunting somebody, and it's hard to find that source, but. So,
When did you start putting the clay dams in? Approximately what year?
probably the last 5, COVID, there was a major slowdown in everything, obviously. I'd say a couple years before COVID.
Okay.
started doing that.
They would not be in my subdivision then.
Yeah, oh,
And that's what's causing the problem. They are in this
And
subdivision, so
to
that
help,
helps.
just so you know, in Heritage, we did help a couple years ago by putting in a clay dam at the right of way side. And we did, so that was, Gladio, or a home down from, not Gladio's, it was, think of it.
But we can talk
Think
later.
about it. I'm ready
We'll
to
talk
move
later.
I don't
on.
wanna digress,
Now
because they
that
had
we've
major
scared you
problems.
enough about water and drainage and all those
I'm
things,
not to
I'm
scare
ready
you.
to move on.
Never mind,
Yes.
I don't wanna build.
We've
No.
gotten a little off topic here, so unless anyone else has anything to say, and I don't see
No.
anyone there, Mr. Griesler has a comment.
Yeah, I do. So obviously I know the people sitting here and they're gonna be assets to your neighborhood and maintain a beautiful lawn, all that. So none of my comments have anything to do with them. Please know that. I am surprised though that you're not just taking 10 and 11, combining them and letting them center their structure there. And if it's truly about price, I know for certain you're gonna sell this for less than you're gonna sell one with a front door. So that was kind of where I was at when I saw this, and I did call Andrea today and just let her know, I'm shocked that you would squeeze lot 11 to what you're doing. You're the expert, not me. At the end of the day, this is your development. You've been there, done that. But I mean, this this is gonna sell for less, and if it's just about price, why not take 10 and 11, let them center it? They're gonna have an amazing property. It'll be that's my only 2 cents, is I don't get why make 11 small. And then what I fear is that 11 is always vacant. I deal with that where I live. I got a vacant parcel next to me, the sidewalk ends, and it drives me nuts. I don't get it. I don't get the philosophy, because they're gonna have 2 really nice properties, and I'm assuming theirs on a bigger lot would even be a more amazing property. And I drove by it when I came here today. I mean, I stopped out front, and it's almost hard to see that there's 2 lots there. I mean, it's small. So, I mean, that's just, and we've not talked. They know that. I'll be honest, I didn't even know it was you guys till I kind of really reviewed this stuff today. So nothing but respect to them. But I'm looking at it from a negotiation standpoint. If it's all about dollars, you're gonna sell this, I promise you, for less than you will if you've got a traditional villa with a front door and your pillars and it matches the rest of the neighborhood. That's just my 2 cents, but it's your subdivision. If
Well,
that's
there's
what you
still-
consider to be the best route moving forward, I fear that you're gonna have this request 15 more times. Hey, you did it for them. Why aren't we doing it? That's all I have, is I just think that there's some risk, not by them, because they're gonna have, I mean, look at Paul's property. It looks amazing. I drove by it today. I was like, holy cow. You know, they will be great, and they will move the needle to probably help the rest of the subdivision start building out. You already said that activity breeds activity. I totally agree with that. I don't know why you would make 11 so small. Just to give them the space to do their driveway. Just give them the whole thing, put the structure in the center, and boom,
Well, I mean, there's a simple answer to that. It comes down to dollars.
price. But would you agree that you're gonna sell this for less than,
Yeah, but I'm also gonna sell lot 1 for.
it's
less.
robbing Peter to pay Paul, is the way I see it.
Lot one's, I think we're listed at 3, I think we got one in there, 299.9, and they're at, what do you have?
But then by the time you put the utility easement in there, it just feels like you're squeezing it. And so that was only my, when I called the city today, kind of looking at it, can you do a conditional approval to make them build lot 11, like fast? Because that's what's gonna happen. You're trying to fill that subdivision. You've got a number of lots for sale. Why would somebody buy 11? When you've got all the other ones to pick from? And so then are you
Well,
gonna
because
be?
it's gonna be in the line of,
That's what you
fire.
say. I'm just saying, I have it in my subdivision. They lived there. They know what I'm talking about. I have an
That's not
empty
for
lot next to
sale?
me.
is that lot
Oh,
for
it's
sale?
for sale. It's not for sale.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, it's not for
Professionally
sale.
up for
It's
sale.
where the sidewalk ends. And I watch every kid in the neighborhood get to it and go around it. And it's just, I would buy it if I could, but it's a buffer lot. And it will probably always be that unless something changes. And I get it. I feel lot 11 is gonna end up being that. I just do.
Well, our plan is not to languish with lots. I mean, obviously, sales determine how much we build. And they've been okay. And, we've allotted quite a few dollars to build spec houses back there, villas, spec villas. So we're gonna continue, and kind of as we sell, we're gonna build, so.
And that's why I'm just giving my 2 cents because I couldn't help not do that. That was my immediate reaction was, I don't get it. I do think they'll be great for your neighborhood. Paul's already there. Place looks incredible. I feel like lot 11 is gonna be a very, very, it's gonna be the last pickings, is just my opinion, unless you put up a spec on it and almost force the market there, but.
We will. We'll spec. We're not afraid to spec. We spec'd in Oregon a lot, so we're not afraid to spec.
Thank you. Any further?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, let me touch on something Greg said. If this is approved, what's to prevent you from continually sizing down these lots?
Well, I don't want to go through this anymore, honestly. We've been trying to get this, 4 or 5 months of trying to get the house to work on the lot. And so I don't, and the other lot, if you look at the plat, you can see how, and Paul messed everything up. If he would have just taken lot 10, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Just sister over there at lot 9, everybody'd be happy. But pretty much the other lots are square box lots. And we're not, you know, we've already got floor plans that work on all those lots, and we will continue to build those. Is our plan.
See, activity even breeds activity on our
Yeah.
panel.
Well, and I think what makes, because I love the neighborhood. I've told my parents, I'd love my parents to buy that. So this is not about anti-anything. I'm just a realist. I'm saying how I see it. I think what makes it an amazing neighborhood is the consistency, and it's done right. I mean, I appreciate you doing this in Oregon, but this is not what's in the neighborhood. I mean, this is a garage door with a front door that's like in a side breezeway. I don't even,
And that's one tweak I would probably like. to
I don't
make.
even get
But
it.
we have some room to do that if you look at that.
But you get my point. It's
Sure, yeah,
you're-
no,
The
I do.
columns and everybody has a little bit of a different take to it, but for the most part, it's the consistency. It's done right. It's done well.
Can you show the-
Setbacks are all great. It's what attracted them to the neighborhood, I'm sure. This is not that. And that, yeah, thank you.
So I've got an extra 7, 8 feet to play with there. So I would probably, I mean, we just kind of threw this in here to show,
Well,
yeah,
and then-
it's something that works.
Yeah, and-
But I agree with you. I want to see the front door in the front.
Yeah,
So,
that to me is, because again, it's a really nice neighborhood, and I'm just fearful that you're gonna open a can of worms and everybody that comes to buy is gonna wanna do a variance to a variance and make it something different moving forward. But you've, I'm sure, evaluated that, so I just wanted to get my 2 cents in, and that was it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to close the public hearing. Any opposition? Hearing none. Public hearing is closed. Floor is open for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move for passage of ST 1561 of 23.
Second.
You do it. Mayor Sphirion?
Yes.
Chairman Winkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Olive?
Yes.
Mr. Breezelaar?
Yes.
Mr. Orovitz?
Yes.
Good luck. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.